What's up, home team? It's your boy Paul for the New World Fantasy Football Show. Flying solo today. Baby bird falling out of the nest. Make sure I don't hit the ground. Today, I'm going to bring you my top 12 fantasy quarterbacks coming into this year. They're going to be guys that have some big performances. They're going to be guys that have dips. There may be some guys this year that finish as a top 12 quarterback. But my top 12 quarterbacks are the tier of guys that you feel confident putting in your lineup in a week-to-week basis. Everybody else to me is injury replacements, breakout guys, and streamers. That's the way I feel about everybody else. Not that those guys don't have value, but they're just not in the top 12. I'm going to be breaking this down into tiers because I think tier-based is the best way to do it. We can argue about Josh Allen versus Patty Mahomes all day long that we want to. I don't find that to be a great use of time. So I have tiers to break it down. You're either that guy adjacent, could be that guy, a guy, or you're not that guy, pal. That's the way I feel about it. If you're not in my top 12, you're not that guy. Can't wait for the disagreements. Let's get into it. My first guy in the that guy tier is not going to be a surprise to anybody. Josh Allen. He's awesome. He wasn't awesome at the end of last year. He had a down stretch of games. Part of that was due to some weird thunder snow type of situation. Some of it was due to a UCL injury in his arm. Regardless, even in a down year, the man had 40 against 15 for 4,500 yards, over 100 rushing attempts, 750 on the ground. Yeah, he's that guy. He's going to be taking the throne back. He's been in that conversation for the last 3 years. Patty barely squeaked the victory from him last year. There is some talk out there about him slowing down the rushing production. I don't buy it. He's only 27. He's a certified hoss. If he has an opportunity to go get that first down or go get that touchdown, he's going to do it. What is a potential downfall? Outside of injury, not much. The offense is still a little too heavily reliant on Stephon Diggs. Is Gabe Davis ever going to find the consistency? I don't know. I don't care. Josh Allen's the 101. After him, it's Patty. I know. Just call me Paul Chalk the Chief. All right? 45 against 10, 4,500, a decent rushing baseline. He gave you 350 in that area. And I don't think anything changes. It really doesn't matter. They brought in Rashee Rice. Sorry, I couldn't remember his name. It really doesn't matter. I'm not going to put my stamp on any Chiefs wide receiver because the wide receiver that matters is a gentleman by the name of Travis. He doesn't need much. He's a magician. He sees the game differently. Enough said. The last guy in this tier, also very chalky, it's Jalen. He has the rushing baseline. Duh. But how amazing is that rushing baseline? It's not just the yardage. You can reasonably expect 10 touchdowns from your quarterback on a yearly basis. Why can you expect them? Because he did it this year and last year. And until they change that rule about the butt push, Guess what, homie? He's going to do it again. I still think the passing has room for upside. He had an amazing year. A.J. Brown was a new receiver for him last year. What if they get a better rapport? What if he gets to 30 through the air? He will be the QB1 on the season, despite everything I just said about Allen, if he hits that next level. And if he doesn't, he's still going to be awesome. So draft him with confidence. A quick note right here about this tier of quarterbacks. You're paying a huge premium. I don't usually recommend it, especially for Mahomes and Allen. I'm seeing them at the bottom of the first, around the turn. There is still a ton of talent to be had back there. It's understandable. I don't think we need to quarterback shame people anymore. I don't think we need to early quarterback shame people because these guys are scoring so much more now with the rushing and just with the way the position is played at the moment that if they hit their ceilings are higher than any of the players. So I get it. But there is another tier of quarterbacks that you can get at a discount that could end up finishing number one, which brings me to my next tier. That guy adjacent. They're almost that guy, but you get them 3 rounds later. They have a chance to jump in to that top 3. They have a chance to be number one if everything hits right. So let's get into it. It's Lamar for me at number 4. We've seen the number 1 overall upside with him. It feels like it happened a long time ago because fantasy years are like dog years. 2019 feels like forever, but he has that rare ability to unlock 30 plus on the air and 1,000 plus on the ground. The weapons have improved. The song and dance with Lamar these last couple years has been he doesn't have the weapons outside of Andrews. It's not there. I think that we're a little early to just completely close the book on Rashad Bateman, but he didn't really show it. They brought in Odell. They brought in Zay Flowers, who I like a lot. Odell is not who he was 5 years ago, but I think he does help their team, and I think he does help their offense. The new OC is supposed to mean more throwing. That means more possessions. That means it should be better for fantasy, right? Is less rushing desirable for fantasy? Do we want that? I think there are still questions here. The inconsistency, the injuries. He's only made it to 12 games each of the last 2 years. His completion percentage has dropped every year. It was ugly last year, 62-ish, sandwiched right between Kenny Pickett and Carson Wentz. Terrible. That's the downside. But even considering all that, any of these quarterbacks that give you that baseline of rushing will be fine. If he stays healthy, he'll be fine, and he can give you that league-winning upside. So he's 4. Next for me, Justin Fields forever, baby. Why? He was terrible last year. 17 against 11. He didn't even crack 3K. But he still finished top 5 on a points per game basis because he went for 11 hundo and didn't even play the whole year. That's amazing. It's not going to take very much for him to finish in the top 5. The passing just has to improve a little bit. A little bit. And they added DJ Moore. So it could improve a lot a bit. He has the second year in the same system. He should get better. I think it's as safe a bet to make as anything. The only reason I had Lamar over him is because we have more tape on him. And he has finished number one. But Justin Fields is just as good of a bet to finish at the 101 as Lamar. Some might even say better because he's younger with less mileage. Love Fields this year. Love where he's getting drafted. Any opportunity that I get to jump on him, I will. Pause. And then to round out this tier, I have the rest of the guys that I think don't have that number one ability, but if they really blow up, they could be top three. And the next guy I got is Joe Burr. He's so fucking cool, man. I just like his energy. I know that it has nothing to do with fantasy football, but like it kind of does. You got the purple shades, the Elton John fit. I love it all. I love the whole vibe. And the team loves it. And fantasy managers love it. He has the best receiving trio in the league. The man is blessed. As long as he has that, 40-plus tutties is in play. And that's what it takes for a guy that doesn't rush to be a top 5 finisher in the position. You give me 4,500 and you give me 40-plus, you're going to give me a top 5 fantasy finish. And he's not a statue. He actually gives you a somewhat decent boost with his legs. It's not very, game-changing. But he does run around the goal line a little bit. He got in for 5 scores. 250 yards is not nothing. That's not Brady-esque. So he gives you a little bit of that salt, that spice on top. Which brings me to my next guy, who I think is just as good, just isn't as blessed with the amazing team around him. And that's Herb. All right? For those that don't know, that's Justin Herbert. But I'm speaking to the fantasy degenerates that are down here in the mud with me and hear these names every day. The volume is there and the talent is there. He's not going to fall out of this tier for me because he's too good and the offense throws a shit ton. Running a ton of plays, which we love in fantasy. I mentioned it before. I'm not really as high on his receiving core. It's fine. Keenan Allen is legitimately a great receiver, but he's on the back end of his career. Mike Williams has the size-speed combo. He has talent. I don't think he's ever put it together consistently for a season. He has disappearing acts. The nature of his role in the offense kind of lends itself to some disappearing acts. So I'm not completely out on Mike Williams, but I just don't think that his receiving core is as good as some of these others. They brought in the rookie. I'm a little iffy about kind of the reports around him. I guess all of this is to wrap it up. His best receivers are Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, which is enough for Justin Herbert to be that guy adjacent. If J. Herb is ever going to be that guy, they got to get him better coaching and a true number one down the field threat. But he's too damn good not to be in this tier. Which brings me to my next tier. Could be that guy if everything works out. If they take a big leap. If something crazy happens. They could be that guy. The first dude that I have on this list is T-Law, Trev. He was awesome down the stretch last year. Last 6 games of the season, he was electric. 12 against 2. He looks every bit the part of a franchise quarterback, and he projects as a guy that can run a little bit, give you a little extra spice. Can we extrapolate that out? They added Calvin Ridley. He's a little polarizing as a fantasy prospect. If Andrew was here, he would tell you he's OUT. But I think that the conversation around Ridley as a fantasy prospect, as legitimate as it might be, doesn't really matter in this context. He's a legit outside weapon that they've needed. This can unlock a lot down the field for T-Law. So he's the top of this tier for me. And he could easily jump the last 2 guys that I said. Easily. He has that kind of talent. And I think the team and the opportunity is shaping up around him. And his division sucks, which helps. This is going to bring you my next quarterback and probably the biggest jump from ADP consensus that I have. And that's Danny Dimes. I think I'm high on him. If my partner was here, he would probably tell you I'm not high enough. But I got him at 9, largely because of the rushing baseline. 3,200 yards and 700 on the ground is great. Only 15 passing touchdowns is not great. Are they going to open up the offense? Are they going to really give him the keys? He can manage a game. He proved he can manage a game. But is he going to take over games? Is he going to have that opportunity? Does he have that kind of ability? We don't know. And that's why I have to put him in this tier. But we have some reasons to be confident. They added Darren Waller, a legit matchup nightmare weapon. Jalen Hyatt looks like he could be a guy. Some of these receivers that they've had from last year that have been much maligned are healthy again. How much better will he be? Can he get closer to 4K? Can he get closer to 25? If he does, he's knocking right on the door top 25. As a fantasy prospect, I think he's another guy that is being way underdrafted and you need to target. He's still between Dak and Kirk. If you get snatched on all the quarterbacks you like early, which has been happening to me, this is the guy. This is the guy you go and get, because I just don't see a world or see a scenario that he doesn't end up at least in the top 10. I just don't see it. And that rounds out, could be a guy. I think Danny could be a guy. Now we're on to the less exciting tier. And the last tier that I have for the top 12. Just a guy. A Jag. And the guy that I have leading that list probably looks the most like a Jag of any of these guys. And that's Jared Goff. We made the jokes about him ever since that horrendous Rams Super Bowl that he had. He's been much maligned. We know this. But he's seen a renaissance in Detroit. He's been legitimately good. And he doesn't really need to be great with the kind of insane volume that he's been getting. He had almost 600 attempts last year. You cannot not be good for fantasy when that happens. We call that the Jameis Winston effect. You can throw an incredible amount of interceptions and still be fantasy relevant, which he doesn't. He does not throw the Jameis Winston level of interceptions. He's safer. They have a bad defense. They have a great line. They have a stud receiver, Amon-Ra, the sun god, the man. Jameson Williams for the second half of the year. I'm getting a little concerned about how much he's going to be able to impact this season. But he's going to be a boost to that offense when he comes in because of just how talented and explosive he is. They upgraded their running backs. That profile to be big-time contributors in the passing game. So why would he not repeat what he did last year? 4,000 plus? Maybe 30 plus. Maybe. I think he can do it. That's why he's 10. At 11, I got Captain Kirk. I talked a lot of shit. First of all, I kind of have to make an apology. I watched the rest of that quarterback documentary, and as much as I made fun of his lame dad energy, which he does have, he seems like a good guy. I've actually grown to appreciate him over the course of the show. I like his mentality. As a fantasy quarterback, he's fine. He's going to finish as a QB1. Why? Because he's tied to Justin fucking Jefferson. That's why. They brought in Jordan Addison, which I think is a great boost. Thielen was losing a step. So I think the passing offense could potentially be even better. Even if he runs it back, he's still going to return his value. The Vikings win total is due for regression. Yes, everybody's talking about it. Absolutely. They are due for some regression, but that's not going to affect the offense. The offense is still going to be great. Kirk and Goff, basically, I see them as interchangeable clones of each other at the end of the season. I just had Goff up one tier, one little number, just because I think Detroit is going to be even that more pass happy. Which brings me to the very last man that I have on this list. And it may surprise some people. Mr. Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Ayahuasca himself. Yes, Paul, it's the Hard Knocks hype. Yeah, probably it is. Whatever. I'm watching the show. I like what I see. I think there's a good chance that what we saw from Aaron last year was an aberration. I think that what we saw last year, there's a good chance it was a fuck you to an employer that he no longer had much loyalty to. We've all been there in life, a little checked out, a little out of it, so we say. And he didn't have good weapons that last year in Green Bay. Losing Devontae Adams, we saw what he did in Las Vegas. It's a big deal. He's only one season removed from a top 6 season where he threw 36 touchdowns against 4 interceptions. One season removed from that. Do we think that he physically completely fell off a cliff? I don't know. I don't think so. Are there quarterbacks that have better weapons overall? Probably. But G. Willie is a certified stud. His rookie season was great. He's got the draft capital. He was able to get the rookie of the year, even with Zach Wilson and company throwing him the ball. I think that he becomes the new Devontae Adams. Not in terms of Devontae's amazing after the catch ability, his amazing route running, all of that stuff. But I think that Aaron is going to find the guy that he trusts, and he's going to use the guy he trusts a lot. So that combo is exciting to me. And if he busts, I'm just going to blame it on the drugs. Everybody else that was not a part of this list, in my humble opinion, you're not that guy, pal. There's a lot of guys that could have been top 12. Quarterback is deep. Dak. I don't like the interceptions last year. I don't like what I saw. I don't like the vibes. No. Geno. He sneakily could have the second best receiving core in the game. if JSN profiles to who we think he's going to be. But I think he had a magical season. For a fantasy quarterback, Geno Smith, I am not into it for the top 12, personally. I think we've had a lot more tape on Geno being not top 12 than we have with him being top 12. I would have put Tua in here if it wasn't for the health. That's always going to be a concern for him. One hit away. It's a scary thing. The diddler, Deshaun Watson, he's got a chance. We've seen it from him before. Again, it feels like a million years ago. But he has a chance. Of course he has a chance. I just don't think he's going to do it. Not to this level. Not with this depth at quarterback. I think he could be a value. But I just don't think he cracks the top 12. And there is one more guy that's not that guy, pal, that I would be remiss if I didn't mention. Kyler Murray. I'm not a big Kyler guy. I don't like the things I hear about his practice habits or what's been going on with that team. I hate Arizona this year. I think they are going to be absolutely awful. But again, if you're punting the position and you don't have a choice and you feel like you're left out in the cold in the Dak, Geno, Tua territory, Kyler's free in drafts. Pick him up. See if he comes back in a couple weeks. See how he looks. It's not going to cost you anything. And with that, you have my list. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm a fucking idiot? Probably. Let me know. Peace out, homies.